Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another Topical Tuesday, which is the video series I do every freaking Tuesday in it, bruv, where we take a look at the Lost Ark Games subreddit over the last week and we see what people have been posting about, and we just kind of hang out. Me and you, we're besties, you know? So if that sounds like your cup of tea and you're going to stick around, make sure you like or dislike the video. Engagement do be engagement, and subscribe because bigger number, better person. And let's see what's been going on this week. I do know there's some brief things that I remember reading this week, specifically like an economic post that was pretty upvoted the other day. Yeah, this thread right here. And then there's some Ark Grid threados, but I don't know if I'm going to go super in-depth on these because I think the posts themselves are quite long, and yeah. And then there was also this Ark Grid is Misunderstood post by Craxine, who is somebody who's been playing the game for a very long time, very notable Hell mode player, all that shit. But We'll just kind of skim on over it, and then reasoning or rationalizing. I think this is the post in response to the economy post. There's a lot going on, is what I'll say. So let me organize these. This. Okay, we'll start with the economy post first, and then we'll deal with the Ark Grid stuff after. So basically, I'm not going to go over all of this because it is, as you can see, a very long post, which can be summarized in a couple different ways depending on like the way you want to paint the narrative. But essentially, this post contains some good points and some like actual, you know, how game economy works, and like how gold sinks work, how inflation works, how deflation works inside of games. But I think a lot of the blame gets placed from this man specifically on how people play the game and allocate their resources. And I think you can kind of see it here in the TLDR, which is basically, if you honed a 1730 plus, completed karma, etc. within the past couple of months, instead of preemptively buying books and gems and honing later, you did things inefficiently, which is fine, blah blah blah. But backwards, this was a predictable mistake. This was not a predictable mistake, which I assume is why it got crossed out. You have no fucking idea what anything is going to happen. You have an idea of how things had happened in the past and how they may happen in the future, but realistically, it's a video game. One patch, one change changes everything. You never know. But due to those people, books and gems are predictably spiking now because last-minute raid prep, not inflation or long-term supply issues. I mean, this is also... Just because one thing can be true doesn't also mean the other thing isn't true, and I think this guy falls into that problem a lot as well. But overall, like I said, I think the post is worth reading, and if you have not read this post, either hop on the Reddit yourself and find it, or just like pause the video and read through it yourself. Because I do think there are some good points raised in here. It's just, like with many things in the world, I mean, most people aren't going to get everything 100%, summarized in a way that you personally will agree with, right? And again, I'm not necessarily saying that even the way that I look at things is necessarily correct, right? At the end of the day, it's just people's opinions, you know what I mean? Some things are objective, though, and obviously the objective things are the things that I'm like, yeah, this makes sense, and more people should know about it, you know? And really, I think the biggest thing that I find the issue with throughout the post is really the TLDR, in the sense that you blame the players for how they spend their money, and then also, like, try to pinpoint price inflation specifically on things like raid content releasing and people being done with the earlier systems now, which it's going to be column A and column B. There is definitely inflation. There is definitely supply issues. There's definitely botting issues. There have definitely been botting issues in the past. There's definitely RMT issues. The RMT issues definitely contribute to the price of things being so fucked. Like, all of these things affect it. So saying that it's just one reason is just factually incorrect. I don't know. But like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this because there is a lot to it. And again, everybody's going to have their own opinion and their own takes. But there are good things in here. So I would recommend reading it. And then I did remember reading this comment. I'm glad it's super upvoted now. I think a lot of the complaints come from people that are fine with gold being removed from the economy as long as it isn't their gold. That's funny, but it is a good way to summarize a lot of problems that people have. But there are actual problems with the economy and the gold sinks in the game, or the lack thereof gold sinks. Or the gold sinks that do exist are done in a way that's not so good. Yeah. But I do, especially as somebody who has always been doing like the Arkonomics and stuff and like the Stronghold crafting guides, there are a lot of people who don't understand like super basic things, like not understanding that whether you craft something with a material or not, the material still has value. You know what I mean? Like, so many people don't see the material as having value. And I think it usually comes from the fact that they will harvest the material themselves. But, like, you know what I mean. I don't know. There's a lot of, like, strange things that people don't quite fully get. Anyways. And then this is the response post to it, I believe. Yeah, this is the response post to it. Some dude made a response post. And then TLDR he's criticizing the post showcased above because it demonstrates a very solid understanding of the game's economy. It ultimately uses the knowledge more to justify the system and place the blame on players for engaging with it incorrectly, as if the system couldn't have been designed better. Yeah, I mean, this is like my problem with it. I definitely believe that the guy's intention was good and he wasn't like using it to like shift blame, but that's 100% what it came across as. I mean, there are, like I said, there's column A, column B. The system is inherently not designed well in certain ways, but it does function very well in other ways. And then, of course, a lot of people shit on this guy's post because of this PS. He's saying he wrote the text in his native tongue and then asked ChatGPT to rewrite it in English, hence the AI look. And, of course, a bunch of people... AI post. And it's like, brother... Read the PS, please God. The postscript is at the top, man. This is like the one use case of AI, especially like generative AI, that I totally fuck with. AI for translating shit is so good. And of course, there's no way to know that this guy wrote it in his own language and then had it translated. Whatever. But I don't think ChatGPT would have, because I've read this too, and I'm also not going to read the whole thing. But I don't think ChatGPT, if you fed it the original post, it would be able to get enough of this right. Because a lot of the things this guy is saying is correct as well. And again, not all of it is correct though, you know? It's, again, people's opinions versus people's opinions. Your opinions will vary. Your mileage may vary, as always. You're only as based as your shittiest take, your shittiest opinion. But anyways, again, I'm not going to go over all of this, but I think it's worth showcasing, especially since it's such a highly upvoted post. And if you want to read it, you could either find the thread or just pause the video as I'm slowly scrolling down, and you can kind of see. And then, again, I do want to... I like the comments more than anything in these threads. I'm only going to go over a couple here, too, to make it fair. But the top comment here is, economy perspective from a player that just wants to play the damn game. If an alt deep into T4 costs millions, I expect to get more than a sad level 1 gem on your dailies and a 1G leg crisis evasion. Not nice to get a decent book or a level 8 gem every day, but you get the idea. And this is something that's always been kind of a thing that has kind of been a writing on the wall, so to speak. Because very early on, alts used to be incredible return for investment, especially just doing dailies and shit, back when like T3 first came out. and like having a bunch of scorpion farming characters was fire, for example. Shit like that. But it very quickly became, you are basically never going to get the money you put into an alt back past a certain point. So you play the alt because you enjoy playing the alt, not because you're trying to farm gold with it. Obviously, the two go hand in hand, but the primary function of an invested alt isn't going to be to farm gold, because it just doesn't generate enough to make it worth what you're putting into it, if that was the sole purpose, you know? And then this post... Damn, this is a big-ass fucking comment. Jesus Christ. Massive problem with the current LA economy is that while the game has always been pay to win in many respects, I felt like what you could or would pay to win for in Tier 3 were like, I want it now rather than later elements, such as shards, silver, back when it was more scarce, gems, and engravings that were always semi-affordable, but only became more and more affordable over time. High hones, which got more constant soft resets in T3, cards, which was very easy, nice to speed up, but was an inevitable LOS 30. And the community generally was looking for the free-to-play standard, not the whale standard. I like the T3 pay-to-win structure. I equated to people paying to skip having to work for it or having it now rather than a week or two later, not just plain better. By the end of T3, there was minimal gap between me and my friends and the biggest whale possible. T4 feels like everything has been put into a cookie jar. Engravings, gems, accessories, soon to be Ark Grid. No longer feels like we're just letting whales have the stuff first while we wait patiently. Feels like we have to compensate with much harder work and basically never ever reach them anyways, or ponying up ourselves for the same quality of life we used to have. Early on in T4, I thought they were going to ramp up our engraving gem production exponentially as we went along, but they've shown zero signs of helping us or improving our situation. It'd be like in real life, had to work 3 jobs to produce the same income as a middle-class job produced relative to cost inflation 40 years ago, which kind of bites. I mean, that's kind of how real life is right now, to be honest, but hey. Yeah, I mean, I think from a playability perspective, even if the systems that are designed in a way that has some some benefits and not just cons, the cons clearly aren't something that players are willing to deal with because it's just not fun to interact with over a long period of time, on top of the game not having much else to do outside of these core, like, raid systems and gearing your character. Like, that's all there is to do, so you have to interact with these systems at some point anyways. And people just quit the game. They stop playing it, right? You can say that it's fine all you want if, like, half the player base quits between each patch. At a certain point, the game just will stop existing. And from a personal perspective, it doesn't necessarily need to matter to an individual, right? Because if you have your friend group that's still playing and you're still able to play the game in the way that you've always played it, it doesn't really matter to you. But I've always looked at this from, like, a perspective of, like, longevity, because I'm somebody who's played WoW on and off my whole life. I'm somebody who's played MapleStory on and off my whole life. These games are, like, 20-plus years old, and longevity to me is, like, something I look for in a game. So I want the community to be alive. I want the game to be thriving. I want the game to do well. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be like another WildStar burnout, you know? Because there are so many good games that I love dearly that just end up burning out because the game doesn't make itself playable enough. And it sucks. Like, the game, there can be a good game inside this game, or like whatever game it was. Like, there was a great game inside of WildStar, but they didn't do enough to make the people want to come back and play it. And the people that did want to play it weren't enough to keep the game around. It's a tale as old as time. And then Ark Grid stuff. Again, some more hyperbole, but I do think the Ark Grid is going to be another massive point of pressure for the game. Because it's, from what I understand, it heavily tanked the player base in Korea even. And that's never a good sign. I'm not going to go over this too deeply since I've already kind of yapped quite a bit, but after watching Memo's guide, I completely lost any desire to play this game. How can you even come up with such an overly complicated system full of RNG and think it's a good idea? Okay, they want a system that takes time, fine, but make something simple. It really hurts because the game had so much potential, yet Smilegate, led by this director, are utterly incompetent when it comes to understanding games. The decision they made over the past 2 years, they completely killed what was a very once and fun, beautiful game. Truly sad. Like I said, a little bit of hyperbole in there, but it definitely comes from a place of loving the game, not so much wanting the game to die. Of course, it adds 3 additional playstyles for each engraving while they were already too dumb to balance the current classes and another infinite RNG or heavy pay-to-win grind. Devs will never learn until they're forced to shut down every single region. The Smilegate special. Oh yeah, here's where I remember reading the numbers. Again, I don't know how true this is. You probably could look this up yourself. I think Inven has the numbers. I'm just too stupid and too lazy to do it myself, so I just trust blindly on the internet. I don't trust blindly, I give disclaimers. But basically, even Korea struggles right now, looking at the only reliable metrics we have: PC Bang share MTM, September 2024, 6.8% of market share, October 2025, 2.2% of market share. I mean, yeah, that's very big number cuts. For sure, Winner Loa on is the remedy, right, XD? Yeah. It's not going to be. And then this is a post saying that Ark Grid, it sucks ass, but we should try to channel it and to use it for feedback. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice if they had like a feedback channel open, like a direct feedback channel. But this kind of been crickets from AGS. We'll see if anything comes of that. And then this is the Ark Grid post from Krakin. I don't know how the fuck you want to call his name. I just know this is a cracked motherfucker. Hell Mode Gamer. From back when I first started playing the game. This guy is a fucking jamer. But basically he's just trying to point out the good points of Ark Grid. And while I do think there are some good things in it, I do think, like I said, the playability of the game speaks for itself. A system can be theoretically good in certain ways. If it just doesn't feel good to use or deal with or interact with or play with, then people will stop playing the game, right? And if people stop playing the game, that's just like the biggest metric you have. In my opinion, of course. It's always my opinion, right? I'm not saying this is necessarily truth. Always keep that in mind. Form your own opinions, people. Always. But I'm just going to touch over the points he touches on. But the Ark Grid system has many upsides in its design, which is true. Like I said, I totally agree. There are good points to the Ark Grid. Adds daily rewards, weekly reward excitement, forced obligated gold sinks. I do think gold sinks are generally a good thing. Fun new builds, I don't know about that. I guess it depends on who you ask. Fun new builds, in quotation marks. I always look at things like that as like PoE, right? PoE skill tree, passive tree. Very cool, until you realize it's not as cool as you think it is. Because there's things you just wouldn't do. And it's like, yes, having the option to do it can be cool for certain things, for certain meme builds, but I don't know. For real content builds, eh. And I don't know if Ark Grid is to that level, but we will see. Sounds like someone from KR who just enjoys eating shit. Yeah, Ark Grid concept is not bad. Its implementation and how punishing RNG it is for unlucky players, it makes people doomers. Same with elixirs, where purple were there just to punish people doing normal content. Build variety, how, where. Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean. Just knowing what build variety, quote-unquote, usually means in systems like this, the reality is there'll be a bunch of options that are ass dog shit that nobody will ever pick for any reason whatsoever, and we'll call it build variety because, hey, you could pick it. But anyways, I'm not gonna get too deep into the weeds. This week was a very very heavy week on mechanics and like the future of Lost Ark type shit. Anyways, as always, let me know what you guys think. I always love reading your guys' comments, opinions, all that good stuff. And of course, like the video if you liked it, subscribe. Thank you to my YouTube members. It's Biscuits and Diz. Ring Small Life. I'm new. Love all you guys very, very much, and I'll see you guys all very, very soon. Bye.